Hello everybody, it's Mel. Thank you for joining me today for my 2026 reading goals video. I know I am not the first person to say this, but I cannot believe that we are just about in 2026, that I am doing my 2026 reading goals. Feels like I only just discussed my 2025 reading goals, but here we are. Speaking of my 2025 goals, there will be a video going through those coming up at some point in the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that. If you are not subscribed already, please consider doing so. But anyway, let's talk about my 2026 reading goals. So I'm going to be using Win from Literary Diversion's Bingo Board from Hell to help me pick out and hopefully actually achieve my reading goals for 2026. I used the Bingo Board from Hell for 2025 and I really enjoyed putting that together, and every so often, not super often, but every so often looking back and seeing how I was going, and so I've decided to do the same for 2026. You will have noticed that I have put on screen the blank Bingo Board from Hell so that you know what it is that I'm talking about. For anyone that is not subscribed to Literary Diversions, to Win's channel, I would highly recommend that you go and subscribe to their channel. They are one of my favourite booktubers, just a delight. They're always funny, sassy, and just, I always have a good time with them. Even when they're talking about things that are potentially more hard-hitting, as they sometimes do. I really appreciate them as a person, as a YouTuber, and yeah, I'm really excited to be using their Bingo Board from Hell again this year. I really love the graphics this year. I know that they have made a black and white scale version of this, but I love the colours of this one and I think it's incredibly cute. Thank you so much, Win. I just love, like I said, I love this. I think it's just adorable. Suits me and my colour aesthetic very well, and the cuteness that I love as well, so thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be using this again. I think that it's amazing that you do this and provide these blank copies for us to use, so thank you so much. I will endeavour to populate these as we go through and talk about them. I am not super good at doing that sort of thing. I do very basic editing, so forgive me if it doesn't kind of work out super well. Also, if you can hear Baby Bookfiend in the background, they are fine. They're with their dad. They are tired and they are resisting arrest. Yes, I did just do a terrible pun. But yes, they are resisting going to sleep because that is what they do, but they are tired. They are fine. Like I said, they're with their dad, everything's fine, but just if you can hear them in the background, that's what's going on there. Alright, so, like I said, I have got the blank Bingo Board from Hell on screen. I do also have my version with all of my goals in my reading journal, which is another video that will be coming up soon, so again, keep an eye out for that and subscribe if you would like to. So I'm going to be looking down when I pick that, I'm going to pick that up and then I'll be looking down at it to tell you what I've done. But anyway, yes. That is the plan. So, going from the top, as you're looking at it, it would be the left, top left-hand corner. I will go along the row, and then I will go down back to the left, and then along, etc. So, in the top left-hand corner, I am going to try to read 10% of my physical TBR. Now, you'll probably, if you've watched Win's video, which I recommend that you do, you will know that Win has much higher percentages and much higher amounts. I have not quite reached my goal of 52 books this year, 2025. I'm hoping that I will do so by the end of the year. I think I'm 2 books behind schedule, according to Goodreads. But anyway, so I'm going to be keeping these low. But anyway, like I was saying, sorry, incredible tangents there. My first goal, reading goal for 2026, is to read 10% of my physical TBR. The last time that I counted my physical TBR, I had 150 books. So 10% is 15 books. I think I should be able to do that. I should be able to read 15% of my physical TBR. Of course, the problem being when I bring more books in, it fluctuates. But we'll see how we go. And also I made it 10%. I went for rounded numbers this time because last year I went for things like 23% and I'm really bad at maths. So I went for 10% because it's easy to calculate. Yeah, anyway, 15 physical books at the moment, but basically 10% of my physical TBR, whatever that end up ends up being, and we'll see how we go throughout the year. I'm planning on doing catch-up videos every now and then, hopefully quarterly. Anyway, the next goal is 3 non-fiction books. I have a few non-fiction books. I enjoy non-fiction when I read them, but I don't very often gravitate towards them. It's not something I'm like super fond of, so it has to be a fairly infrequent. So I think 3 should be fine. I should be able to get through 3. Like I said, I do have a few on my shelves. I can see 2 from where I'm sitting right here. I have, I think, 3 on my shelves, and I have a couple on my Audible. So definitely have a few to choose from, and I definitely would like to read some of those. So 3 non-fiction books is my next goal. Next one along, we have 4 classics. I enjoy classics, and it's been quite a while since I've read any classics. I do have something coming up this year which you'll see an announcement video for, which will definitely help with this. I probably should have said this already, but my Goodreads goal is 52 books again. So I don't want to be trying to make too many books, you know, prescriptive, if that makes sense. So 4 classics I feel like is a decent number to aim for, and I definitely should be able to pull that off. I don't want, again, to make these unachievable. That seems pointless to me because, you know, they can always be adjusted as I complete them, but I don't want to get to the end of the year and think, well, I obviously wasn't going to read 20 classics if I'm only reading 52 books in a year. That just doesn't make sense. So again, like I said, 4 classics. Going to the next row, I have got finish 4 series. This year in 2025, my goal was 3 series, and I did finish 3 series. So I've upped it for next year, for 2026, because I do think that's doable. So I can cheat a little bit with that. If I start a series in 2026 and then finish it, that would still count. But the aim is to work on the series I'm currently reading. So yeah, that's the aim. Next one along is read from 8 series. So I want to try and finish 4 series, but I want to read and continue with 8 series. So that's because some series that I would be choosing to read from haven't finished being written, so I can't finish them, but I'd like to continue with them. And some that I am some part way through, I would just not catch up. Unlikely to anyway, catch up by the end of this year, but I definitely want to be able to read from some of those. So we've got 8 series there. All right, the next one along, instead of having a number of audiobooks that I want to read, I have got here always have an audiobook on the go, because I do have Everand and I can listen to audiobooks from there. And I no longer have an Audible subscription, but I do have some downloaded from when I did have the Audible subscription that I haven't listened to yet. So I can have a book on the go. But the reason why I've said that, as opposed to read X amount of books per month or whatever it might be, is because unlike I feel like everyone else in BookTube, I just find that I read far fewer audiobooks than I do physical books or ebooks. I don't listen to audiobooks whenever I'm not physically reading, which I feel like is a lot of what people do, a lot of what other people do. So I don't do that. And yeah, so I'm not going to necessarily be putting 2 audiobooks on a month and then like reading 2 audiobooks in a month. But I would definitely usually like to have an audiobook on the go for when I do want to listen to it. Often in the car when I'm driving, but just in general if I'm doing the washing up or something like that and I feel like having an audiobook, then I'd like to always have an audiobook on the go. So that's why that is that. I feel like that's actually achievable and something that I will do. So that's why that's a goal there. Okay, final roll. 50% of books acquired in 2025 and 2026. So I did have this one, only it was 2024 and 2025. For 2025, it was a little bit harder to keep track of because I didn't track very well the books that I bought in 2024, but I have tracked the books that I bought in 2025. So I definitely can be a bit more intentional about this one and keep a better track of it. So 50% of the books acquired in 2025 and 2026. And I've also feel like I've been better about reading the books that I'm acquiring. Not necessarily all of them, but I certainly feel like I'm being better about reading the books as I pick them up or fairly shortly thereafter. So half of the books that I have acquired in 2025 and will acquire in 2026 is the aim to be read in 2026. We'll see how we go with that one. Next one along, read every day. I don't always manage to do this, as you are no doubt aware, particularly given I mention them not at the beginning of this video, I do have a small baby. They're no longer really a small baby. They're a toddler, just about. They are 15 months old, and the older they get, the more difficult I find it to read when they're awake and doing things, because not only do they, you know, require me to be around, which I can read in their presence, but often they are intrigued by what I'm doing. So they either want to look at the book or they want to climb on me and get my attention. So reading in their presence when they're, you know, up and doing things is proving quite difficult. I think as they get older and more independent and more capable of doing things for themselves, I think that'll become less of a tricky thing when they get more into independent play. They're reasonably good at independent play as it is now, but partly they also just notice I'm doing something else, so they want my attention, or they want to see what I'm doing and they want to be involved in that. But I think that will lessen as they get older. But yeah, anyway, read every day is not always something that is achievable, but I would like to try and do that. So that might involve upping my audiobook consumption, just because like they don't mind having noise going on in the background and they're not really listening to an audiobook if I'm listening to an audiobook. I don't like to put headphones in when I'm like washing up and they're sitting in their high chair. Hi, I'm back. Apologies, I don't actually know what I had been saying. The memory card was full, so I was beeping, but I don't know at what point it actually stopped. So I had to go and fix that up, and then I needed to change Baby Book Fiend's nappy. Obviously their dad could have done it, but I happened to, they were helping me with my SD card, and I happened to notice that they had a poo. Anyway, you did not need that much information. So I was talking about reading every day and how it's tricky with Baby Book Fiend, and talking about how that might actually end up increasing the amount of audiobooks that I read, because they don't care what they're listening to. So I could have an audiobook on when I'm doing something like washing up, often they are in the high chair hanging out with me when I'm doing the washing up, or housework or something. So yeah, that could be that, because that might be the only chance I get to read in any given day. But I do prefer physical reading, in terms of like, not just for the fact of reading every day, but for the fact of actually being able to like focus my attention on something and relax. I find physical reading more relaxing from that respect. So read every day is the next goal. And then the final goal is to read 3 horror books. So if you've been around for a little while, you may know that I don't typically read horror books, although I have made a bit of an effort to read outside of my comfort zone a little bit in the last couple of years, and that includes horror books. And so I want to try and do that a little bit more. So I want to read some horror books. Also, I do watch different people like Win, like Gabby from Gabby Reads, Gavin from Gavin Reads It All, Kayla from Books and Lala, people who read a fair bit of horror, and they make some of the books sound really, really interesting and really like they'd be really good. So like they are really good and I would enjoy them. So I would like to give that a try. So yeah, so those are all my goals for 2026 for reading and the bingo board from hell. I actually do have some other goals that are more personal or that aren't reading specific. I am planning on doing a journal flip through for 2026, so you'll see some of those in there. But yeah, that's everything from me today. That's all of my 2026 reading goals and my bingo board from hell. Like I said, thank you so much for Win for providing this really fun bingo board to help us with our goals, help gamify our goals a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. Leave any comments that you might have down below, what you think of my goals, any goals that you have that you'd like to share with me. Please leave all that down below. If you'd like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, leave me a little ghost emoji, because we had some little ghosty friends on our bingo board from hell. And yeah, that's everything that I would like to talk to you about today. So thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.